Okay, it's 10. I'm gonna let folks in, but you may want to start a little slowly because people
Yeah.
are coming in slowly.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the initial kickoff for BEAD grantee office hours. I'll just give it another minute to see if there's any other folks. We did have about 70 people register for this, so I want to make sure everyone's with us. So watch that number of participants grow. So excellent. Oh, sorry. Thank you. All right, that number is growing. Excellent. Okay. We'll give it another 10 seconds and we can get started. So, and we have about 40 folks registered, not 70, as I like to exaggerate. So, but we're at 37, so that seems like a pretty good number to get started on. Um, Thanks for joining us. My name is Brian Martin. I'm Senior Manager at CBO. Several of my colleagues are on here who will be joining us throughout the course of this series. Um, First off, congratulations for being provisionally awarded, and thank you for all your efforts over the last month or so as we tried to line you up to be successful with getting these projects signed and ready to go. So, the point of these office hours is to take this opportunity to cover a specific subject we think is relevant to your agreement preparation, and then just give you an opportunity to check in with us and see if there's anything we can do to help you move forward and get these finished. Uh, as you all know, BEAD is quite a lift. But we're here with you throughout this process. And forward. So as I just mentioned, this is our updates from us. We're going to cover a few different requirements, which I'll get onto on the next slide in a second. We'll do a Q&A, and these will be recorded, so we'll make sure we share them with you. Just as a side note, you may have seen it in your calendars. Today's session, number one, is at 10 a.m., and then remaining sessions will kick off at 2 o'clock on Thursdays for the remainder of this series. So just make a note of that. If you need updates, our calendars should be up to date with that, so we can, uh, you know, make sure you're on there. If you don't have it, and if you have other grantee colleagues you'd like to invite, then you should do that too. Yeah, so I said we'll cover certain requirements each one and then open up to you for a discussion. We do kind of want you to come to us with questions. The idea is to kind of introduce a specific topic we think is important, and then hopefully we can engage in some stimulating conversations and make sure folks are aware of what's coming up. So today's session will be on milestones and fixed price. One or two of my CBO colleagues will kind of walk through this with you and find out some pointers, and then feel free to ask questions. I would suggest we use the hand raising option, or if you want to put a question in the chat, that is also fine. We'll cover those as we go forward. So the next week we'll cover network design. Session 3 will be on the financial management questionnaire. Session 4 and 5 will cover cybersecurity risk management plans and financial surety. I would say, we are aiming for about 10 of these. If there are specific topics you'd like us to cover, please do reach out to our CBO inbox and let us know what you're looking for, and we'll take that into account for each of these, so we're making sure we're covering everything you'd like to see. I want to pass this over to my colleague Michael
Mhm.
to get started on fixed award milestones.
Right. Good morning, everyone. Um, you're going to see some information today that is a little bit different than what we reviewed in our review sessions, and wanted to go through this. There is some benefits to this, and I think it helps us with reporting for federal compliance and other items as well. During our sessions, I had several ask if we were going to align our milestones with the NTIA milestones. And through several iterations and revisions from the NTIA, and looking at the benefits of this, it looks like it is the best thing for us to do. So we will be realigning the to a fixed award with milestone payment. This alleviates quite a bit of financial reporting. It's just a kind of a change in how we will do this. You still will be reporting financial activities to give us an idea of how the project is going, how expenses are going, but we will be paying out on milestones as opposed to a monthly. Uh, if you're completing your milestones monthly, then you can do it monthly. But as milestones complete, you get a portion or percentage of your grant. So as you can see, the first milestone is aligned with NTIA as NEPA preview review approved, and that would pay out at a 10% of your total grant. So if you have $1 million grant, you would get $100,000 once that milestone is met. And then the next milestone is engineering and permitting completed. Now, this one, through our conversations, we spoke with several of you, and your permitting process may be a little bit different. You may permit along the way. So definitely have conversations with us, and we'll try to figure out how we can fit that in and still get the milestone completed. It may be a permitting plan that shows how your permitting will progress through the project, and then we would be able to indicate that that milestone is complete and ready to pay out. Then milestone 3 is where we get 50% of the project complete, and this is via an on-site verification. So as part of our monitoring, that would be where milestone 3 would be completed, and that pays out 50% of the grant. And then we have an optional 75% of the project complete. So as you get more completed miles of the network, then we pay out again. And then milestone 4 is where we get 100% complete. We pay out the remaining balance. I know this is a lot to take in. You will be seeing a grant agreement template that has this lined out and laid out in the appendixes and in the narrative. So please take a look at this. Let us know if this presents any huge problems for anyone, and let's have a conversation around that because we believe that this actually gives a little bit better of a cash flow for you as opposed to making you wait and incur the cost and then you get reimbursed. So hopefully this is beneficial for everyone, and we will we'll definitely work through it as we go. Sorry, I saw your question pop up there, John, and I saw a squirrel. I got distracted there for a second. The 50% complete will be based on your project plan and your engineering plan on total miles of construction, things like that. We haven't really dove too deep into what that looks like, but that's a good question that we'll have to take back and figure out for you guys. And I want to just say that I want to apologize on my behalf that I was going down a path with our review sessions and telling you a little bit of incorrect information because I was not aware of the updates and changes to the NTIA. But I think it's going to benefit you guys much greater than the way we were planning on doing it. So appreciate you guys being tolerant and let us know. As I said, please let us know if this creates a problem for you so that we can try to figure out how to work this through. If there's no other questions, Brian, did you want me to go ahead and do the onboarding checklist or?
Yeah, I think that's good. If we don't see anything, and again, I think folks, if you need time to marinate, that's totally fine. Just reach out afterwards. So thank you. Oh, did one question to come in from Ben? and Laura.
Let's see, what are those questions? Let me see real quick.
Ben asks, how
Um,
are drops and activation costs going to be handled in relation to the project being complete?
uh, Ben, as we said, it's going to be a percentage of the grant and a grant amount that is. So it won't be per drop. It'll just be a percentage. I think if you go back a slide, Brian, I just want to see what that percentage would be. So once you get to milestone 3, we've already paid out 20%. So at milestone 3, when you get to 50%, we will pay out an additional 30% of the grant. So in the scenario, the example that I gave before, first milestone, if it's $1 million grant, we would give you $100,000 or pay out 100,000. At milestone 2, we'd pay out another 100,000. And then at milestone 3, we would pay out 300,000 of that grant. And then we have the optional at 75, which would be another 25%. So at that point, it should cover all of the engineering and construction, but we look at this milestone, the last project, 100% complete, would be paying you for the remainder of those passings, if you will. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, could I just follow up on that a little bit?
Yes.
So to get to 100% complete, is that the distribution build out? We can't force customers to subscribe.
Right.
So
That's right.
customers are going to subscribe over,
Mhm.
months after the build out.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's the origin of the
Mhm.
question.
Yeah. No, what this does is once you have the base network passing all the homes that you had committed to in that agreement, we would pay you out 100% at that point.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my understanding. And if that changes, Ben, we'll definitely clarify that.
Michael, can I comment a couple of things?
Yes. I didn't know
Okay.
you were on here. Please comment.
Yeah. So a couple of things that are worth talking about, and then we hope that we have set this up to have plenty of time for discussion later because we really would love to hear additional input on this milestone process. So at 50% of project completion, the primary metric for that is going to be locations served. So that's not locations subscribed, just locations served. So when you've built out
Okay.
your system to a place where you would be able to serve those customers within 10 days without additional charge or additional capacity to your network, that is when that sort of 50% of project completion would be triggered. There are a couple of sort of unique payment issues that we can talk about maybe a little bit later on during discussion because we're trying to do our best to make this simple for you and to be able to get you paid and for you to not be carrying a significant amount of costs or to crimp your cash flow, but then to also make sure that we're being really responsive to the feds in terms of being able to, when we are paying, that we are making sure that we're paying for work that's been completed. The other thing I would mention is that because this is not cost reimbursement, we are sort of initially assuming that the amount that you bid will not include any profit. And so profit is defined as revenue that exceeds expenses by the end of your project. And so you may have additional costs as it's related to subscribers. It's really going to be up to you to make sure that by the end of the project at milestone 4 at 100% complete and closed out, that you're able to articulate through your accounting system that you're not having any profit from the grant funds. We can talk a little bit more about the nuances around that in just a few minutes.
Yeah, thanks. It looks like also Judd did respond to those questions. Thank you, Judd. So we'll roll on to the next slide unless anyone has any further ones. You could if you could just hold off until the Q&A.
I just wanted to add to Laura's question there. I believe there was a couple of grantees that had asked me specifically if the engineering design package was going to be required. approved prior to the contract, and that is a change that as a result of us going this direction, it did result in a change there. So please take that under consideration and scratch what I told you during our review session. So what will happen next is once we get our official NIST approval and we get our agreement from NTIA and we're ready to move forward with grants, we will notify you that it's time to accept your provisional grant award through the portal. If you are a CPF grantee, you're very familiar with this. What will happen is when you log into the portal, you go to that application, it will have a pop-up screen on the top, a little banner that says you are now able to accept. Do you want to accept this grant? And you would put a yes or no. At that point, once you have indicated your acceptance or non-acceptance of the grant, then it moves forward and we then create a grant agreement record, which it equivalates to an award on your portal. And then we start moving forward with the agreement. In the meantime, training, once we're going to have the training available, the training portal available, and this is for minimum for your project director, the financial officer, and the signature authority. You can definitely have more that are working on the grant than that. And if they want to participate in the training, we highly recommend it. We really appreciate everybody that did this in our previous grant program because it did work out fairly well for us. Review the guidelines. Just reacquaint yourself with the guidelines and compliance reporting, and be on the lookout in our template. There may be some changes due to the direction that we're going that you want to review very closely. Certified network design package, we're going to require that before a grant agreement. So once you've accepted the award, I would definitely start getting that certified network design package ready. We do realize that this is a cart before the horse. Typically, certified network design packages are after NEPA is done and you've evaluated all those impacts of NEPA. We realize that this is a certified network design that will probably change after NEPA. That's fine. We'll just look for the changes. They don't have to be certified, but we want a certified package up front that gives us some confidence that the network that is being proposed and that we're funding will provide the service that is expected. And then capital investment schedule. You don't have to have that professionally engineer certified. And correct me if I'm wrong, Allie, but what we told you in our sessions is that you could use the capital investment schedule. You could use the budget addendum or a budget attachment that we provided to you as your capital investment schedule, or you could use another format just as long as it's substantially similar.
Michael, you're right. And just as a reminder for some of this, we'll answer as much as we can in the Q&A session this afternoon, but we have an entire uh, uh, office hours scheduled to go over specifically the certified network design package. So just so you know, we're gonna probably what we'll stop doing is taking the questions in the chat right now, so that Michael can actually get through get through all those slides, and then we'll hop into all of your questions at the end. So keep putting them in there. We really appreciate it. We're gonna hold off on answering them until we get to the end, and then hopefully you guys, if you feel comfortable, can hop off of mute. We can have a discussion about some of these things. So yes, absolutely, you're right. We're doing everything we can to make this as easy as possible, Michael. And that capital investment schedule is really what Michael and John sent to you. And so we will accept that as your capital investment schedule when you send it back to us. So.
Yeah. And you guys provided us deliverables tables. You don't need to change those deliverable tables. We will map that into the NTIA milestones so that we try to, and we'll share what we've mapped into what, and and then that way it will become more clear what is covered in which milestones. In addition, here's some things that are going to be coming to you for your input. Financial management, sorry. Complete the financial management and internal controls questionnaire. We'll ask for you to submit that back to us. Risk plan certification. Uh, if you have, we're going to need that as well. Of course, the surety, whether it's a bond or a letter of credit. Insurance, a certificate of insurance we're going to require, and then NTIA requirements, submit this certification of number additional public funding, no additional public funding, sorry, not number. This is a new, uh, not something that we did in CPF, but this is NTIA. You're going to be submitting a certificate that you will not accept funding for an additional funding from any other federal or state program for this BEAD network that's under this agreement that you're building. Did I say that right, Allie? I felt like I just stumbled all over that
Almost,
one.
almost state funding is acceptable. And there's some caveats around it. The certification itself will have additional information and some clarity around some of those requirements.
Okay, so it's just federal funding then, not
It is just federal funding,
okay.
and this is an area of real heartburn. So just we do appreciate that, so we can talk a little more about it. Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Yep.
So we can open it up to questions now at this point, unless
Well,
folks have.
did John ask a question again, or no? Is that the same question and Judd answered it? It's John. It looks like based on clarification, it's going to be based on the passings available for service.
Hey, everybody, this is Kristen. I've been monitoring the chat, so I'm happy to start by pointing out for the team what questions haven't been answered yet. And one of the things that does keep coming up about is whether this information will be available after the meeting. The slides, the recording will definitely be available, and I can send those out, and they'll be posted on our site. And then I will look into making a chat transcript available, but as a reminder, we do have an FAQ on our site just for BEAD provisional grantees, and I will continue to add these questions to that as well. I think we handled the drops and activation costs. Is that right, Ben?
Yes, I think so. Cynthia had a question following on that. So from what Allison said, if you don't install a drop before the completion, you don't get funded for it. Well, if the funding is based off of the grant amount, the fixed amount, if you had drops in your budget, then technically you do get funded for those drops upon completion of the project.
Yeah, the way I
Cynthia,
understood your answer was that we're going to get 100% funded on the project once all the addresses have access. And so we'll be receiving the funding ahead of the drops and activations as those trail in the next 12 to 18 months or something.
That's a potential, yes.
yeah, Ben, I think it's a really good question. I think what Cynthia, and again, we're sort of working our way through the milestone process. So loving these questions, we'll take them back and talk about them. We just want to make sure I understand what Cynthia is saying. I think, Cynthia, what you were getting at is this requirement that revenue not exceed expenditures, I think. And so I think what your question is trying to get at is at 100% complete when you finish the project, your company will show a profit. And so how do you reconcile the payment, the milestone payment then with the the fact that your books will show a profit. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Maybe I was just like, if a customer doesn't take service through the whole time frame,
Hmm?
so we don't put in CPE or that drop maybe because
Hmm.
it's a long one, then I mean you could call that profit, but really, or it's in reserve to put that drop into them, right? I mean, it's kind of a wishy-washy there, so I don't know
Yeah,
what you
I
want
think
to
it's a
call
re
that, but
I think it's a really great point. We can't answer it on the call, certainly, but I really appreciate you bringing it up. It may be an answer we're going to need from NTIA, actually, because it's the NTIA requirement. This proof of no profit is an NTIA requirement, not a state requirement. So, and we'll just want to make sure that our guidance to you lines up with what they're willing to
Yeah.
accept, and we don't put you in a position where you end up paying back money, because we haven't been thorough in our background. So we'll thank you for the question, and we'll take it back and find some answers for you.
Yes. Will the certified? Okay, so there's a question. Will the certified design be used for NEPA review? Uh, I'm assuming it will be, um, but understand that that initial design that we've asked to be certified is a plan. And we know that that plan can sometimes be impacted by other um, circumstances and that may have to be updated. So I would expect that whoever's doing the NEPA review for you, they're going to need to see the plan as well. So yes.
Can we
Okay.
sorry, can I just pause for a moment there? Whoever asked that question, if you don't mind, uh,
Well,
again, sorry, just clarifying that I'm understanding your question. And maybe I'm taking this too far, but I agree with Michael. The certified network design is due prior to the execution of the grant, right? It's not a CBO requirement, it's an NTIA requirement. It feels a little backwards maybe,
yeah.
but it is what it is, and we're looking forward to seeing your designs. Um, and as Michael said when he was doing his presentation, we understand that over time this will change. We would expect that because the NEPA review has to happen immediately upon grant agreement execution, that your certified network design will inform your NEPA review. And so we would not expect to see a huge deviation unless you were sort of giving a call to Michael and John and saying, "Hey, we started our NEPA review and realized if we just move 7 miles to the west, we can avoid this entire wetlands. It makes more sense." But
Mhm.
it would involve an update to our design. So that's sort of how those two things will tie together. You'll have your initial design. We will do you're paying to have professional engineers certify it. We're not going to second guess your certified engineers. We're just going to do a quick check and make sure that it looks like what you are sending to us is going to accomplish the goals that you set out in your applications. And we recognize that the best laid plans change when they hit the ground. So
Yeah.
we certainly know that that'll happen. As a point on the milestones, we will like Michael said, we'll get an email out to you just with these milestones in writing, so you guys can kick them around, think about them a little bit. We would really love input on the milestones. Do they feel like the right places? One of the requirements that we are really frankly struggling with on our end is that at this point, NTIA instructions are that we cannot distribute any funds to grantees prior to approval of the NEPA plans. So not submission of the plans, but approval of the NEPA plans. Um, it- and in most cases, we anticipate that that will happen relatively quickly. NTIA has done just such a great job at getting things set out for that those NEPA reviews, but for some, it could take a while. And so just wanted to sort of draw your attention to that. Feel free to think creatively if you feel like that's going to be a problem for your agency, let us know. But then also uh, um, happy to hear solutions if you think
Yeah.
it's going to be a problem for you.
And I'm glad you clarified the requirement and the milestones there and where some of this is coming from, Ali, because I was really struggling saying some of the things that I had to say there. Because it's not in the time frame and not in the flow that I normally would see it in. So,
Right.
uh, let's see. Ben, can the grant project be broken into phases for the milestone reimbursement schedule? Yeah, that's what we're gonna take a look at, and I'm not sure what was your thought there, Ben?
I think it ties into one of the other questions here. So the permitting, you can't permit an entire project at the
Yeah.
beginning. So it's normally a rolling situation
Mhm.
where, the engineering is done and then the permitting
Yeah.
is received, then the locates, then the build. But that's
Mhm.
that's kind of a rolling
Yeah.
situation. And so, being able to break the grant down into phases, I think, to meet those milestones,
Mhm.
might work. But otherwise, I think, just the milestones don't really match up with how a build project proceeds.
Yes. Allie's heard that from me probably no less than 12 times now, that this doesn't flow as a typical project. And I've even personally, not a CBO comment, but a personal comment is whoever made these rules at NTIA has probably never done a project before. But I'll get off my soapbox now. And we did have that conversation, Ben, when we started looking at this, that I brought that up. And it was definitely from input from you guys during your reviews of the grants that you do permitting as you go because you don't want permits to expire. You don't want to incur the cost and then have to incur the cost a second time because you have to renew the permits. So we're looking into ways of reporting that. And that's what I'd mentioned before, that if that's what you do in your project and it's large enough that makes sense for you, we would definitely want to look at a permitting plan. How are you going to permit and what those stages look like? So it's basically like breaking it up, like you said.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Ben, we'll take that question back, talk about it
Yep.
internally, make sure that we're not getting aside of anything, and get you an answer and the facts. There is an area that I'll mention, maybe a corner case for most, but we'll mention in terms of phasing with the milestones. One of the options that we do have for very large projects is actually to split the NEPA approvals into pieces. It's something that we need to get NTIA approval for. There's a process that they've given us to go through that. But as you start your NEPA, your environmental and historic preservation reviews, when you're starting that review, if you realize you're going to have an area that could cause you big problems, but you would be able to get the majority of the project done, or you know maybe even your backhaul done on a categorical exclusion, and then some of the drops would be subject to a more rigorous environmental review. Please communicate that to your grant managers. That process won't be immediate, and so the sooner we know about it, the better. But NTIA has given us the opportunity to be able to separate out and to split projects into smaller NEPA review sections so that you're able to keep going, which would also mean that we'd be able to create sort of a compensation strategy or phased compensation strategy for your project based on what those as those NEPA approvals come in. I think I shouldn't promise that because it's
Yeah.
going to depend on NTIA, but but I think their intention would be to be able to allow for that.
Yes. Yes. I definitely need Allie in checking me to make sure that I'm not violating any of the compliance or any of the requirements that we have, because just the engineer in me and the experience that I've had in the industry, it just doesn't feel right sometimes.
That's true. Next
Let's see.
question.
Next question. Uh, oh, there was a question about individual performance bonds needed for each awarded project, or will one performance bond that covers 10% of the total subaward fulfill this requirement?
So I think there's two issues there. So the performance bond is 100% of the project. So a payment and performance bond, when we're talking about payment and performance bond, that is 100% of the project. It's project specific. If you're gonna go the letter of credit route, it is 10% of all of your projects that have been awarded. And so it may be, I just want to make sure that we're clear on sort of the two different terms and the requirements around those. Those are detailed in the sort of next steps guidance that if it didn't come out yesterday, it's coming out today.
Mhm. Did that answer it, Laura? If you could give a thumbs up, that's all you need to do. Um, the next one from Kate, are you still anticipating April 1st, 2026 for the project start dates? We are definitely marching to the end of first quarter, having agreements done, but there are still out of our control until we get our NIST approval, final approval, and we get the agreement from the NTIA and we sign that. But we are marching to that. That's the whole point of having the preliminary meetings and getting all of our information correct. And I'm updating that now as we speak in the portal. You'll be able to take a look at it. As, at least from an application standpoint, on the application side, you'll be able to see a lot of the data that I've put in. And we hope to, as soon as we get the go from the leadership, we're going to push them over to the agreements and contracts group as soon as possible. And we may start pushing them over as they're available and ready. If we don't have information back yet, please definitely let us know if you're not going to be able to meet the due date that we gave you so that we can kind of have an idea of what's available.
Michael, I did see just farther up, Kyle had a question about NEPA and how NEPA was going to be managed. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss it. Is now an okay time
Yeah,
to
that's
give a
fine.
couple of words on that? We'll talk a little more about it, Kyle. We have hired a consultant. For those of you that are not familiar with it, NTIA holds final approval or coordination of final approval for your NEPA plans. But the state of Colorado is a joint lead agency with NEPA, so we're going to be working with um, NTIA to do everything we can to make your approvals go as quickly as possible and as smoothly as possible. So part of what we're doing to make that happen, we're hiring an environmental consultant group. We're in the process right now that will help both the state and will be available for technical assistance for grantees. Want to make just it really clear that you are responsible for your own environmental reviews, right? You do your initial environmental review, look to see whether or not categorical exclusions are available for the path and the network design that you have, and then you will submit those to the state. The state will review them, at least at a high level. The state will review them, will offer you feedback, and then we'll be able to provide a little bit of technical assistance to you and your contractors, or if you have an in-house team, to get your submissions really in order so that when we submit them to NTIA, it becomes a really easy review for them. So we'll have a office hour specifically around NEPA. Probably once we get you through this pre-agreement stuff, we'll start moving into post-agreement. NEPA is considered technically post-agreement. So that you guys can start thinking about what that looks like on your end and then the resources that we have available. One of the things that we've asked our consultant to do is to present to you all and your environmental experts the sort of new streamlined way that NTIA has the way that NTIA has attempted to really streamline broadband approvals. So we hope that we can make it as easy for you as possible. So we keep saying we'll have more information. We will have more information once we get through these first couple of items.
Yeah. Let's see, we had a comment and a question, another one from Laura, um, that some states have allowed us to claim 100% CPE and install costs for all awarded locations. Since there's no guarantee that all eligible subscribers will take the service, has CBO considered this approach? That kind of ties into one of the other questions and answers that we provided earlier. We're taking all these things under consideration, and we will take this back. Is there a draft final version of the no additional public funding certificate available yet? It will be available with the template, and we're expecting the template. I mean, we're really close to having all of this all in the template and ready to be approved, and so we can send it out to you for comment. So I don't think we have it available on its own to be sent out. We would rather send it out along with the whole package.
Hey,
Michael,
Michael, it's
oh,
out. I sent everything sort of at the end of the day yesterday, and I've linked to it in the chat.
Okay.
Um, sorry, just
So
barely, but it's out.
but we did get it out. Okay. So yes, Kate, it's out and it's on our website there. See, we learn new things as we go every day. Something new.
I didn't know either, Michael. I was like, I think we did, but I don't know. So Kate, you were asking about the phased NEPA approach. Would it hold up the milestone payment? So, for example, that milestone one is what I'm assuming. We don't know. We'll have to ask NTIA how they're doing it. I know that they are intending. Their intention is to create this process that would allow you to move forward on parts of your project. Which one would assume would be accompanied with payment. So I think it will. What may end up having to happen would be that your project is split into two pieces, and truly split into two projects, or it's possible that NTIA would allow for a waiver. I've not heard anything about a waiver process, so it's possible that the solution will be to separate your project into two pieces. But when we know more, we will absolutely let you know. And I love the idea of the phased, the phased process and phases as payment sort of sub milestones. So thanks for bringing it up. We'll take it back and think about it.
Yeah. Another question or a comment from Nicholas, just relating the timing to the NIST approval for our proposal, and then mentioning that 30 days to review and sign the proposed contract with the NTIA. That is correct. There is a 30-day period after the NIST approval and NTIA gives us our agreement. We have 30 days to review and sign. And then at that point, that's when awardees clocks start on agreements and everything as well. So we're trying to get through that as quickly as possible, though. So but that is the time frame, yes. And when you say the X number of days, we're working through that with you. Do we have a set number of days, Allie, from the time we give a grant agreement to an awardee that they have to review it? Is it 30 days? Is it 60 days? What is it?
Yeah, typically we have a 30-day, the state of Colorado has a 30-day return policy. Like, so you need to sign and execute your grant agreement within 30 days of being issued. We would hope that that won't be a problem. You will have your grant agreement in plenty of time to be able to review it. As a reminder, public comment for the grant agreement has already closed. We've made some revisions. We will be sending it back out. You'll have an opportunity to review, send back any comments. And then once that is done, the template will be set. So you should have, that's way in advance of you actually getting the document itself. So the majority of that review, we would anticipate, obviously, you should always read your contract from first page to last page before you sign it. But also, we would anticipate that the primary portions of your review will be making sure that the location list is correct, your budget is correct, your work description is correct. Those items that are customizable within the template, the rest of the template will stay the same.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a final check that I've captured the information from you and put it into the system correctly and transferred it over. So you get to check. And then on the last portion of Nicholas's comment there, he was asking about the certified network design, if cost incurred are reimbursable, Allie. So that's
We
the conversation that we had on that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have asked NTIA for them to put that out in facts in writing. We hope that that is going to be the case. We anticipate that that's going to be the case under pre-agreement costs, which would be included then in that first 10% milestone payment.
Um, let's see. You covered Kyle's, right? Um, and let's see. I'm scrolling down. Just bear with me. Okay. I think we're at the bottom of the chat there. Are there any other questions? Okay, I see a
Craig?
hand raised, Craig.
Hey, Michael. Some questions from the onboarding guide, if I can. One was bottom of page 9. There was a line that I think is missing a verb.
Okay.
It was provisional awardees may be requested to blank the cybersecurity plan via screen share.
Mm,
And I think it should be review, but does it mean send or
No,
probably display.
it's
Craig.
just
pantomime,
display.
sing? You want us to sing the cybersecurity plan? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Thank
Good.
you for that catch,
You
Craig. I just fixed it.
Thank you.
you get the special prize, Craig. You caught it.
It's a curse, not a blessing. The 250 foot guideline for the point layer, is that the combo of 250 feet and passable? Meaning, and I asked this question before, is it just blanket 250 feet as the crow flies, or 250 feet and passable because we were going by it anyway and we can drop it without additional construction using that, serviceable in 10 days guideline?
Let's take that back and we'll add some clarity around that because I think we have definitely provided an answer previous to this session on that. But we want to take a look. Are there thoughts that you have that maybe we haven't covered in our explanation?
Well, just practically, what it should say is within 250 feet and serviceable within 10 days.
Okay.
Craig,
Because
what you're asking, I think can I make sure I understand what you're asking? So I think this is in the point layer, right?
yeah,
Okay, so in the point layer, you're asking, would you only display locations that you could serve without the additional 10 without any additional work within the sort of 10 business days, or would you include anything within that 250-mile distance,
feet,
regardless of whether or not you could or could not serve it? Is that your question?
250 feet.
What did I whatever I
You said
said.
miles. You said miles.
We'd get the whole state covered, no problem then. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
so the previous answer was just blanket 250 feet, but that really doesn't do anyone any good, and it's kind of a disservice because if you run down a road and a neighborhood has homes that back up against that road right away, you can't get there within 10 days. There's no way to route fiber. So as the crow flies is very different than as the fiber routes.
I got you.
And so
Yeah,
the only useful point for you to include in the non-funded or non-applicable locations, which is of interest because you're going by them anyway, are ones that would meet the BDC definition of a serviceable in 10 days. Otherwise, it's just new construction and a new plan.
Gotcha. You used the example that was in my head when you were asking that question, Craig, is houses backed up to each other. Would you go through one neighborhood house property and violate a utility easement of any sort and serve the house from the backside, right? Um, we'll have to take a look at that and discuss that internally and figure out how we can articulate that. But that makes sense. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the most common situation is a non-routable outlot without an easement or right of way. And so you'd have to go around at an extremely high cost. So you don't want those locations in that point layer that we submit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think I'm
and the last question was about the PE certification. So there was a little asterisk saying we could use in-state or out-of-state.
Mhm.
But then is the certification of interest? So does it matter if it's EE or civil, or is it just like usual where it matters more that they have competence, not the designation?
Mm.
the
Well,
NTIA. This is not my area of expertise. What I can say
yeah.
is the NTIA has not provided guidance on this.
Yeah. So it's pointing to the latter that you mentioned, Craig, that if they have the confidence and as a professional engineer, they are willing to certify. It could be a civil engineer because this is considerable civil work, but then there's also a knowledge of, the services provided and the equipment. Can it provide the services? That civil engineer, do they have expertise in that area as well? Can they certify, basically, can they certify that the equipment that's going to be installed will provide the necessary services for the end users, right?
Yeah, well, NTIA has always left it intentionally vague and not specified because
Yes.
it's more important for the aptitude rather than the designation, because telecom bridges EE, civil, and
Yeah.
mechanical.
Yes. Yeah. Uh,
We'll
we
get you
can
an
act.
answer in the facts, Craig.
Yeah. We'll
Well,
ask.
well, well, I think as is. I'm just making sure there wasn't a new NTIA rule, but I think the preference would just be leave it as is, because we all kind of understand it's more the competence than the designation. But now that we're on the hook for the PE certification for those sections, we just have to make sure of whether it's one or more PEs. But yeah,
Okay.
I think it's okay just to leave as is if
Yeah.
there's no NTA guidance on it. But that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Craig. Um, Kristen answered Laura's last question, but there's something going on with the portal that is logging them out and blocking them, Allie. So I think we need to take that back to our internal group and
Yeah.
and see what's going on with the portal. Why is it logging them out and and the resetting password doesn't seem to be working again. So um, if you have any issues and you need into the portal right now immediately before we get that resolved or looked at, just let me know. I can reset the password for you. Uh, I'm sorry for the painfulness.
And thanks so much for bringing it up. We really
Yeah,
appreciate it. It helps us. This helps us to hear, particularly when it doesn't happen to us. So thank you.
yeah. Well, every time I assume a grantee's persona and log in, it works just fine for me. So what's your problem, Laura? No, we get you. We'll get it fixed.
The milestone slide. So, does that milestone slide apply to Leo as well as others? I believe our Leo template is going to have slightly different milestones.
Mhm. Well, we're almost at time. We do want to allow you a few last minutes here if you have any last minute questions. But of course, if you think of any questions or some questions come to your mind just in the middle of the night, you just wake up and you've got a question, write it down, send it to us. We will get it answered and get it out on the frequently asked questions and get a response back to you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. If there are no final questions, again, feel free to pick this up. We'll get this into the FAQs, and yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you next week. And just keep coming up with questions. And thank you. We'll
Yep.
keep them firing back. So thank you, Michael, and thank you, Ali, for
Yes.
being so excellent responsive.
Right. Now, we just want to thank all of the participants on the call today. We're definitely partners, and we're charging to the same solution and resolution and results that you are. And in any way we can confuse you and then clarify, let us know. We can try. Um, we get confused ourselves, so your questions sometimes help clarify it for us.
And then here's the advanced CBO inbox if you need that as well, if you're not sure. And I'm gonna get the slides. Yeah. Go
Oh,
ahead.
Brian, I just had a thought.
Mhm.
Sorry to go off script a little. But it did occur to me that for those of you, as you're reading the guidance, as you have questions, if you do want to just shoot them in to us, like Brian said, we've got a couple of sessions scheduled. We want to make sure that they're helpful to you. Also, in addition to putting that information in the facts, we can make sure that we present it so that everybody has an opportunity to hear it as well as see it. So thanks. You're welcome to send those in advance of those meetings.
Okay,
No need to
one
wait.
last thing came in from Kyle. Will the subgrantees deployment projects, locations, and no bead location attachments in the final proposal be updated with the NTI approved version on the CBO website? I'm not
Yes.
sure I'm following that question. Are you talking about mapping? Is that what you're looking at? That locations on the Colorado map will be designated as uh, committed. Is that what you're looking at, Kyle?
We will update the map with the few changes that have happened and update the CSV files as well. We were waiting for our final approval before we update those files.
Okay. All right. And thank you, Kim. I'll try harder to daze and confuse. All right. Thank you, guys. You have a great day and look forward to speaking to you on the next call.
Thanks, everyone.